In previous videos, we discussed how we take in information through two separate channels, the visual and the auditory. This is called the dual channel hypothesis. This hypothesis says that we process visual information, such as images and on-screen text, through our visual channel, and auditory information, such as narration and sound, through our auditory channel. Both channels are limited in how much information it can process at any given time, and too much information can lead to cognitive overload. With that in mind, let's say you're preparing a multimedia presentation and you're deciding between adding on-screen text to explain the images or narrating over the images yourself. Is there a difference between the two approaches? The cognitive theory of multimedia learning, which builds on the dual channel hypothesis, says that it does matter whether images are accompanied by on-screen text or narration. On-screen text is visual and therefore is processed through the visual channel. If you use on-screen text to explain the images, then learners have to take in more visual information and potentially risk overloading their visual channel. That's why texting and driving is so dangerous. Instead, if we add narration, which is processed through the auditory channel, we get a more balanced presentation that is less likely to create cognitive overload. If you've seen the video on the redundancy principle, you might be wondering how that's different from the modality principle. There is a lot of overlap between the two. The redundancy principle stipulates that having images, text, and narration together is not helpful to learning, especially if the text and narration are identical. The modality principle states that if you had to pick between having images and on-screen text or images and narration, go with images and narration. A range of studies show that images and narration led to a significantly better learning transfer, with effect sizes ranging from 0.6 to 2.79. When learners have control over the pacing of the lesson, the effect of the modality principle becomes negligible, shrinking to 0.16. There are some important exceptions to keep in mind. For students learning material in a second language, presenting information as narration has a counter effect, with an effect size of minus 0.83. This is likely because narration goes away once it's spoken, while on-screen text is present for learners who need more time to process. For these students, on-screen text and slower pacing helps them learn better. Relatedly, the modality effect also goes away when the lesson contains a lot of jargon or technical terms that are new to the learner. Another point is that the modality effect is more noticeable when the narration is accompanied by visual cues. In a series of experiments with elementary math students in Australia, students benefited from the modality effect if the corresponding parts of the image flashed as the relevant narration came up. For example, when the narration discussed rectangle AMDE, the corresponding rectangle will flash on screen. This is aligned with the signaling principle, which says that verbal or visual cues help learners lower cognitive overload by reducing the effort it takes to connect the image with the narration. Finally, the modality effect is less useful when the lesson is slow or if the learner has control of the pacing, because when learners have more time to understand the lesson, they are less likely to encounter cognitive overload. Like the previous videos on the segmenting principle and the pre-training principle, the modality principle is another way to reduce essential cognitive overload. Segmenting works by breaking complex material into smaller, more manageable chunks that can be integrated into the learner's understanding before they move on to the next segment. Pre-training works by supplying learners with some prior knowledge on which to build new incoming material. And by following the modality principle, we can reduce the amount of information coming to the visual channel by using narration instead of text, thereby offloading some of the information to the auditory channel. All three of these principles are ways to manage essential cognitive processing and to prevent it from overloading.